Montana East Regional News, this is Emily Boyles. I am with Rocky Smith and Terri Beyl, and Terri is Rocky's mom, and Rocky is a student at Custer County High School. He's a sophomore, and Rocky and Terri have a very exciting story to share with you today. Rocky is a Special Olympics athlete, and Rocky, you also are an athlete at your school. You're the manager of which team?
Boys basketball.
And then you also compete in what sport at Custer County High School?
Track.
All right, and then you are also involved in Special Olympics. And what sports are you involved with at Special Olympics?
Bowling, softball throw, 204-meter run.
And so you really like Special Olympics, is that right?
Yes.
And my understanding is that you had a special friend. What's your special friend's name?
Officer Headley.
Officer Headley is no longer with us, and my Special Olympics, one of their biggest supporters across the state and indeed across the country, is the Law Enforcement Torch Run. Every year we talk a lot. We talk with Eva in the Glendive area, who helps to coordinate some of the law enforcement torch run events. They go from Sydney into Glendive and then up to Miles City and on to state games. Terri, your family is very involved in Special Olympics, and you've benefited from a relationship, a special relationship with those officers, and one officer in particular, Officer Headley, who was involved with Special Olympics. Tell me about how you got involved, your family got involved in Special Olympics, and how you met Officer Headley.
Well, it was our actually our second year competing in Special Olympics. It was our first year going to state up in Great Falls, Montana, and it was the first day of competition, which for our team is the softball throw. And this officer with a brown Labrador dog named Coco came and was presenting medals for our athletes. And Rocky had won a gold medal for the softball throw, and Officer Headley was the officer that presented the medal to Rocky. So that was his first gold medal at state games.
And then that wasn't the last time, though, that you met, and that was 2006?
Yes.
And what happened the next year in 2007?
Well, in 2007, we went back to state games, back up in Great Falls, Montana. First day of competition, again, for our athletes is a softball throw. And again, Rocky had won a gold medal and was standing on the platform to get his gold medal. And here comes Officer Headley again to give Rocky his gold medal. So it was 2 years in a row that Officer Headley had presented Rocky his medal at this point.
And he started to be your friend at that point. Is that right, Rocky?
Yes.
And did you start looking forward to him giving you your medal every year?
Yes.
What happened after that year?
We were at the softball throw, our first day of events. Rocky had won his medal for the softball throw and was on the podium, and here's Officer Headley giving out medals again. This time, I think Rocky was so excited to see him because he realized this was the same officer that had given him his medal the first 2 years. He almost came off of the podium to give him a big hug because he was so excited to see the same officer. And that's kind of really when they really started getting their friendship formed, because we saw him several times throughout the games that year, and every time we saw him, he would actually, speak to Rocky, go from whatever he was doing and come and say hi, and they started to form a really special bond at that point.
And unfortunately, he began to get ill a couple years ago, Officer Headley did. So tell me about some of the special times that he made an extra effort to support you and to support Rocky during those last couple of years.
First year he was diagnosed. He was at the state games and gave out medals. His family and Rocky and I visiting, and he also gave Rocky his medal that year for the softball throw. The next year, which was the second year at Bozeman, Officer Headley was at the games, and we went to get our Rocky through the softball and was on the medal podium, but Officer Headley was not presenting medals because he wasn't feeling well enough. He'd been through some chemo treatment and just was kind of laying low. And Rocky didn't want to take his medal. He said, no, this is not this is not right. Officer Headley is supposed to give me my softball medal, and you're not Officer Headley. So we finally had to talk Rocky into taking his medal from another officer who was not Officer Headley. But we were able to spend a little time with him, throughout the games of that year.
We'll hear what happened with Rocky and Officer Headley when we come back after. Montana East Regional News with Emily Boyles is produced by Marks Group Broadcasting. You can listen weekdays in Glendive, Forsyth, Miles City, and Sidney, Williston, and Dickinson, North Dakota. Find Montana East Regional News on television on KXGN CBS and KXGN NBC. You can also keep up with breaking news and great regional events. Find Emily Boyles on Twitter and Facebook.
Remember how good it felt being in shape? Joe does. Joe was cleaning out the attic and discovered his old military uniform. He thought about the old days, how it felt running hills, always ready to serve his country. Joe wants to feel that good again. He's not alone. Joe's wife, Sally, also wants to lose weight. Introducing Move, a weight self-management program for veterans. Your VA healthcare team is ready to help you and your family get back to a healthy weight. Your weight is a balance of what you consume versus what you burn. If you're gaining weight, you're eating more calories than your body is using. There's more than one way to participate in Move, including individual care, group classes, or home-based programs. You participate where you want, when you want, and how you want. Joe and Sally made changes. Simple and gradual lifestyle changes. They ate more veggies and fruits, used the stairs, walked during lunch, and just plain moved. Eat wisely, move more, weigh less. And that's what Move is all about. Join Move to maintain a healthier weight for life, prevent and control many diseases and conditions, feel better, and have more energy. It takes time and effort to make these changes, so making a commitment to Move for at least 6 months is critical to success. You can do it. Read other veteran success stories at www.move.va.gov. Talk with your healthcare team and move towards your healthy weight goals today. VA Healthcare is defining excellence in the 21st century.
If you're just joining us, I am with Rocky Smith and Terri Beyl. Rocky is an athlete with Special Olympics in Custer County, and Rocky has had a special relationship with an officer from Thompson Falls who for years participated in the law enforcement torch run. So Terri, last year, Officer Headley was very ill. Last year,
I got a phone call from Officer Headley, and he was telling me that his illness was progressing and he was not feeling well and would not be coming to state games. I talked to Rocky and told him that Officer Headley was not going to be at state games because he wasn't feeling well, and that we would try to, make arrangements for them so they could get together and visit some other time. And got to state games. First day, our first event is softball throw, and Rocky threw his softball, won a gold medal, and got his medal from another officer. Stopping and visiting with Holly, who is Officer Headley's wife. Rocky was looking really sad, so Holly asked if we could call Dave and if that would help Rocky feel better, and Rocky said yeah, that it would. Gave the phone to Rocky, and he wandered off and was talking on the phone for about 5-10 minutes and came back and just handed the phone to Holly. A little bit later, was waving to me and said, "I need to talk to you." So she came up and told me that after she'd visited with Rocky, or after Dave had visited with Rocky, he'd called her and said that he was on his way because he was moved, and he didn't realize how much that he put the athletes would miss him, but he also wanted to make a point to be there so he could see Rocky. Throughout the day, now this is an 8-hour drive from Thompson Falls, he'd called Holly and told her that He'd put his uniform in, loaded up Coco the dog, and was headed to Billings. And that he asked Holly to check with us to see if he could come and see Rocky as soon as he got to town. We went through the day. She kept, giving me reports. He's still doing good. He's driving. He's doing okay. And so it came time for opening ceremonies. And this is the point where they have the grand entry of all the athletes. Teams are represented. And this is also when they have the law enforcement torch run officers do their circle of honor, which is the officers basically line up around the arena floor and are recognized, and this is where the lighting of the torch, the Olympic torch, happens. And Rocky and I are sitting with our team up in the bleachers, watching all the festivities, and the athletes come in, and it's time to do the circle of honor, and they dim all the lights and they open the door, and the first officer in the door is Officer Headley and his dog Coco. And I look over at Rocky, and he has a look of disbelief, and then he looks at me and says, "Mom, you said he's not coming, and there he is. You were wrong." And at this point we were both cried because we were happy. I was happy that he made it. Rocky was happy that he was there and surprised him. And when the officers were done with the circle of honor, Officer Headley came up and found Rocky to give him a hug and tell him that he made the trip and was happy to see him. And
Rocky, what's your favorite memory of Officer Headley?
Getting my first medal.
And that medal came back to you.
Rocky, not knowing that Officer Headley was going to be at the state games, he had taken the first medal that Officer Headley had given him and wrote on the strap of it, "To Officer Headley, I love you, Rocky." The intention was he'd written a note and was going to give the medal and the note to Holly to take back to Officer Headley. But since Officer Headley was there, Rocky presented Officer Headley with the first medal that Officer Headley had given Rocky. And that medal lived with Officer Headley until the day he passed away.
And that was when?
That was on September 3rd.
And then that medal came back to your family?
It came back to Rocky at the Officer Headley's memorial service on September 11th, which we attended, and Rocky helped with. Officer Allen did a eulogy and asked Rocky to come up and help with that, and at that point they presented the medal back to Rocky, so it made a kind of a circle from Officer Headley to Rocky to Officer Headley back to Rocky.
You don't always know what kind of an impact an officer makes in somebody's life, and Rocky, it sounds like Officer Dave Headley really did make quite an impact on you. And you're a sophomore now, is that right?
Yes.
And where are you going to go to school when you finish high school?
MCC.
And then when you finish MCC, I understand you want to go to Bozeman. And what is it that you want to become?
A police officer.
Just like Officer Headley. Well, and that's quite a testament to how important our officers are and the role that the torch run plays in our Special Olympics programs right here in eastern Montana. If you have a hot news story or a news tip you'd like to share with us, you can email us at newsdesk@kxgn.com. For Montana East Regional News, this is Emily Boyle.